Hello, hello. This is Dude Boy Orc Boy, and I'm back with another installment on these cheap trucks. So, what we have here is the truck from my last video that I built on camera. So I've gone outside and I've spray painted it black, and then I spray painted it red because this one's going to be red. You can also see these three yellow trucks in the background. We will be painting those yellow and give them a little bad moon action. So here I am applying a wash to this red truck. It's just a simple black wash. I have taken just a drop of black paint and diluted it down with some water. And what this will do is this will pull out a lot of the details. The wash will go in between the cracks of all of our pieces, and it'll also pool up on our bits and stuff and make it look, like weathering. It'll bring out a lot of the details of this truck very easily. And you got to go a little bit thin on this formula. You can't really go too thick or you'll just be painting your truck black. So in order to get this effect on this red, you just have to thin it out a little bit. Just using water. Just paint and water, folks. And when it dries a lot lighter too. So, but this creates shadows as well as pulls out detail. So there we go. Oh, excuse me, folks. Sorry about that. A little sneeze action. It's spring here, so we have a lot of allergens floating around in the air. And then I'll just give this truck a little shake, just to kind of, splash off some of anything that can pool up. Alright, so we'll set this truck back, and then I'm going to wash these other three trucks too. And for these yellow trucks, I'll use a brown wash. Take a little bit of this brown here. Just a little dab. Just a little dab. One drop. 2 drops. 2 drops. And then a lot more water. Yeah, not that much. I'll wash this brush. Always clean your brush. Now, if I would have dipped that brush into this brown, it would have darkened it up a little more. Alright, so we'll mix this up into a nice wash. Watered down paint. This might be a little too watered down. I might have to put a little more paint into it. Let me try it out here. Yeah, it's a little light. I'm going to need to add a few more drops. Oops. Keep grabbing one that's unopened. 4 little drops there. And let's mix that. Yeah, it's looking a lot thicker there. That's perfect. You just kind of, you're doing the same thing. You're giving this thing a once over with this brown watered down paint, and it's going in the cracks. It's bringing out some of your detail of this vehicle. Just a nice first step in the weathering painting process. And trucks are still good. They're still viable in 40K right now with the new rules. You know, you can use them in many ways. You know, if you want to get your boys to the front of the line, you can throw them in a few trucks. You can take one truck, you know, like an empty truck, and drive it out front. And, you know, just knowing that it's going to get blown up. And then you get the rest of your trucks to the front of the line and you drop your boys. Get in close. Get in close, quickly, and efficiently. It's worth the points to lose an empty truck if your entire army gets into like melee range, you know what I mean? So you can do that. If you play Gorka Morka, this is a really good way to build a few trucks for your army, or your mob, I should say, because it's not really an army, it's a mob. I like Gorka Morka. I wish they'd get that going again. But you can get the old rules. The rules are on PDF file. There's a few places that have them. You can print out the whole set of rules if you want. It's really fun. If you've never heard of Gorka Morka, it is a kind of like an Orcs campaign. It's an Orcs game, like where you use your 40K models, and the story is like an Orcish space Hulk crashed onto this one planet and turned it into like a Badlands, like a desert, you know, screwed the whole planet up when this thing crashed. And it created like this giant scar where it slid after the crash, and it's just like this planet, you know, and small mobs of orcs are trying to survive and make their way. And so what you do is you create a mob of orcs, and your buddies create mobs of orcs. And you can build, you know, this is where building your own stuff comes in, like, amazing. But the goal of the scenario, the campaign, there's lots of different missions and stuff like that, but, you know, you're basically almost like an RPG element. You're building up your mob of boys, you're, you know, gaining experience and money, and you can buy things like better trucks and upgrades and, you know, more units and stuff like that. It's really cool. And so you go out on missions to like find scrap, because there's just scrap everywhere from the Space Hulk that landed. And so you go out into the Scar, the Great Scar, and you you go find like some of the missions that you play on the tabletop board. There's scrap you have to collect. There's all kinds of stuff. There's one scenario where it's kind of like a race, almost like a pod race on Tatooine, but it's with orcs and their buggies and stuff. Like, it's really fun. Hundreds of scenarios. It's like your post-apocalyptic orc free-for-all. I mean, it's really fun. I haven't played that one in a while. We have a pretty big local club. I could host a Gorka Morka. I could host some Gorka Morka games up there, and I'm sure some people will join. It'd be cool if they made like if Dawn of War or something like that would get some kind of add-on, like a Gorka Morka add-on. So if you hear that out there, somebody create a Gorka Morka game, dude. Even if it's just like a simple one, like a Warcraft 1 or a StarCraft 1 style, like old graphics or something. If it's quicker and easier, I'd like to see someone make a Gorka Morka game. That would be amazing. Shoot, Games Workshop should have a team of people that watches these videos and gets good ideas and implements them. But I guarantee you, a lot of it, like everybody who plays Gorka Morka would probably get a Gorka Morka video game, okay? Because we'd all be like, oh yay, Gorka Morka. The reason it's called Gorka Morka is during the initial crash, the survivor orcs got together and they created a place called Mechtown. And Mechtown is like your RPG town. You get to, that's where you buy all your stuff. That's where you go on your missions. Mechtown is kind of like a Gadget Zan or something. Just it's the big town of the game. And the mech boys are the ones who are actually sending you out on missions and stuff. And so what it is over years and years and years of Mechtown being around, and people trying to build. They were trying to build a ship to get off the planet, get back out into the WoG, and it started to like slowly end up looking like a god. And half of the faction of orcs thought it looked like Mork, and the other half of factions thought it looked like Gork, and there was all kinds of fights over it and stuff like that. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just this humongous, monstrous, like giant machine thing that doesn't work because it's so big. And they ended up calling it Gorka Morka, and now they literally worship it as a god. That's why the planet stays in a perpetual state of war, and they're not going to leave now because they have their own god. Alright, so here is some trucks. They've been given a light wash. They've been spray painted, given a wash. Here's the truck from my video. And here is a magnetic gun piece that I made. There's a magnet underneath this, and so it can stick to the back of this truck, if I want to have a big shooter. So here's one magnetic weapon option. that I quickly made between videos. So we're going to paint this stuff now. Get out my handy dandy dollar store cutting board, aka my paint palette, and I am going to do a little painting for you guys today. Let me get my... So, here we have, and I think I'm going to need to get another bottle because I'm getting close to empty. We have a bottle of Folk Art Gunmetal Gray. You know, and this stuff is shiny. It has a little bit of a metallic property to it. So, I'm going to throw some on here. And here's a sponge. I like to use sponges. I like to use the flat edge of the sponge when I come in and do this part of the paint job. So I'm just going to get my flat edge nice and painty. And then I'm just going to try and pick out some of these details, you know. Nice. Easy. Yep. I just pick out some of these details. Not all of them, you know. You don't want to like completely silver up your nice paint job. But if I go along some of these edges, it just pulls a little bit of detail out. And the sponge looks good because it looks like the paint has peeled away or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you can see metal showing through underneath the red paint job. Yeah, there we go. And it's easy to follow these lines too, because if your wash worked correctly, then you can follow these lines. The barrel is going to get kind of a burnt look to it in the end. There we go. Just a little silver to highlight that big shooter. Yeah, big shooter. Tucka, 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 tucka. Is it a big shooter, heavy shooter, something like that? Might be heavy shooter. Alright, I'm just going to jump straight in, start picking out these edges on this parts of this truck. And again, these trucks are so simple and cheap to make that you should be able to make, you can make like 10 or more of these trucks versus buying one of GW's trucks. You know, last time I went to buy a truck, I think it was about $40. I said, holy moly, $40. And I know they got, I mean, it's a business. They cost them money to do everything they do. They ship all over. You know, they have employees, they have families. But God, you know, $40 for a truck, and it's not even assembled or painted or anything. You know, and you look online and you can get some assembled and painted ones for $40. People sell them. People sell their old stuff. But I do have to give GW props for its models. I have bought a lot of them over the years. And not just Warhammer, you know, I do like the Lord of the Rings stuff that they have. And I've bought some of that. I bought, so I like that, they had like a, kind of like a Twisted Trees set. I bought that Twisted Trees set. They're really cool looking. There's two of them over on my miniature desk. Okay, just keep on dabbing. And so these teeth here in the front of this truck, they're actually going to get a different paint color, so, but I wanted to get in between them. That way I had a little bit of detail in between them. There we go. And this is a fun project you can do. The odor's pretty low. I do it in my studio here, and the odor's pretty low. I don't smell it really right now. Well, actually, I'm having a little bit of allergy nose as well, so that's probably going for me. So, pro tip: if you already have an allergy nose going, well, you might as well paint. You might as well paint. I don't know if it's really good advice or healthy advice, but it makes sense if the smell of paint bothers you, that if you did it when you couldn't smell it, you might get more enjoyment out of it. I like the smell of paint, so, you know. Sometimes you do get a headache, so I don't like that, but alright, keep using that edge. Use that edge along the edges of your pieces, and magic. There we go. Nice, nice, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Alright, this truck is highlighted. Just like that. It's quick and easy. Quick and easy. Alright, so now I need to make a light gray wash. Alright, the next step is to take a pewter gray and then I'm making another wash, like a gray wash, but this time this only goes on to my corrugated parts here, what looks kind of like a sheet metal. Yeah, that just kind of, that'll finish off these sheet metal pieces real nice. And if you spill a little bit, you go into your handy dandy drawer, pull out a Q-tip. You can just soak up a little bit of excess. You can use the soak technique. So I didn't even have to like wipe that paint spill. I just like sopped it up using the capillary action in the Q-tip. Alright, flip her on the side here. Just an easy little wash. Nothing too big a deal. And then when it dries, it looks really good because it's in the recesses of this piece. It looks like rusted metal. I could even come over and dab a little orange just to bring out a little rust. And there's many paint techniques. If you go out there and look up the hairspray and salt technique, you can get some really good under like peeling paint effects. So the paint job can take longer than it takes to actually make these. If you want to do a really detailed paint job. Yeah, so I'm having a little bit of fun with these videos. I like the interaction when people watch the stream, and I also like it when people ask questions in the comments. You know, if you have a question, ask me in the comments. I'll come in and answer questions. Oops, sorry about that. Knocked over a jar of paint. Luckily the lid's on. With that. And there's one on the back. Pretty large one here. Oop, we're getting a little spillage. Getting a little bit of spillage. Take your Q-tip and let it absorb. And it's okay if it stains a little or something like that. I mean, this is an orc truck, so these are dirty trucks cobbled together from scrap and sent out into the fray. Alright. Those will take a little bit of time to dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same wash on all these ones on these Badmans. I do the same gray wash, and I get a little bit of a different effect on this yellow. The Split Grin Bad Moons. Gotta love these guys, huh? Flashy. I'm just kind of doing this one out here so I can finish it up. Alright. Alright, let's get this truck that we're working on back in frame. Alright, so the next step is to do the rivets. And for the rivets, I get this tarnished brass here from Reaper Paint. I'm sure you can get another, you could use gold or you could use whatever color you want. So I'll take a little bit here. This jar is all jacked up. There we go. This tarnished brass is like amazing for rivets. Okay, spare one. See, it doesn't take too long. This tarnished brass just kind of brings it out. I spilled a little bit there, and so I just cleaned it up. There we go. Rivets. And then the next step is a purple wash right over the rivets. I'll get that ready. Hmm. Hmm. I got my purple wash ready here, and it's just inside of a little cup here, a little Dixie cup. Oh, I see a couple of rivets. Oh, I missed some rivets. Alright, we're going to have to back up a step. We're going to have to back up a step. Okay, so I forgot a few rivets, and it's a good thing I caught them when I did, because I was just about to move on to the next stage. There we go. Let me do another check and make sure that there aren't any more. Here, I'll do the top of this grill. Yeah, there's a few here. Nice. There we go. And now we'll move on to the weathering around the rivets. Alright, so I have mixed up a purple wash, which is, I use the Army Painter. It was like an Army Painter purple, but I have a few different purples. This Army Painter one's pretty dark, so I just kind of slowly dribble it on until I get a nice pool, kind of like a ring around the rivet there. And you can absorb a little extra. There we go. There we go. So this pooling gives the gives a weathered effect of, I don't know, kind of like a dried, like oily metal. Like with that weird brass color too, it just kind of like pops. Looks better in real life than it does on this webcam. You could use whatever color you want. You know, if you're on a lush, if your orcs come from a lush jungle world, you know, you could actually use a green wash for this. It makes it look kind of like a, almost like a moss, you know, or an algae kind of a look to it. It looks pretty jungly. Alright, there we go. Let's go on to the back. And this just adds another level of detail to this simple truck build. We haven't really put too much time into this truck. It's been, I don't know, maybe 2 hours so far. 2-hour build, under $10. You know, of course, you have a little bit of dry times in between the paint coats and the glue and stuff, but actual working time has only been 2 hours. You know, maybe I might end up on the 3rd hour on this truck, but I don't know. You can go faster than that too if you're like, if you get all your stuff cut beforehand, and there's ways to tone it down. I've been talking and explaining things. Alright, so now that we have some weathering on our rivets, we'll let that dry. Oh, let me get a little weathering on the right here on the top of this grill. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay, so we can actually do these tires as well. Or I might do the tires last. We can paint our teeth and our bits. So I will do that. You get yourself, for me, I like to use white on these red trucks. So I just get an apple barrel white. And I'll drop a little, no, crust. Drop a little down on here. 2 drops is enough, more than enough. I get my handy dandy dropper bottle of water and do about a drop, one drop just to thin it up, mix it up a little. You know, you still have a lot of paint, but it's much thinner than a normal paint. It's like a slurry. And so I will come in and paint these teeth. See that? Which is cool too, because we're still gonna come back in on these teeth and I like to splatter a little bit of blood, kind of gore it up a little bit. There we go. I'll get the teeth on the grill. Got my bone skull there. And I got my cow skull here on the back. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Alright, so there's that. That's another step done. And I can glue on some checker patterns. And I'll probably be making some more videos of different orc stuff I do, cheap orc stuff. I've got a few projects in the queue that it'd be a little bit more motivation for me to do them like this. That way I get some projects done and you guys get to see some cool stuff. Okay. So for this part, we just take I take like a sheet of printed out hex checks and cut them up and glue them on. Basically, since we're keeping this thing cheap and easy, this is how I do it. But if you want to paint them on, you can paint them on. Some people have their preference. And what I do is I just come in and look and see where this would fit. And then fold it over where the edge met. Come in, slice it. Drop a little super glue. This is some cheap dollar store super glue gel. That's all you need for this step, just because this paper will stick. And there you have it. Just a simple check mark. You know, if it's a little too long or if you don't like how it looks, you can trim it. You can trim it up. Oops, here's another one. Alright, and so the next step, very last step, is to do the tire. And so the way I do my tires is take the paint, black paint, and it's a little watered down. It's still thick enough to be good thick paint, but like basically I took a bottle, like one of my whole bottles black, and just threw, like, emptied it out a little bit, and then just put in like a little bit of water and just mix the whole thing out, just so it was like the whole bottle is slightly slicked. And I use it for a lot of stuff. I mean, I use it so much. There we go, there's one tire done, easy. The trick is to just like go right around that thin edge, and if you spill like I did, I just went over a little bit right onto the rim. Again, you can just come in and just clean it off. If it leaves a little stain behind, it's okay. These are orcs. All their stuff is stained and dirty. There it is. And there's two tires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here. This is basically a complete paint job. And I'm going to lay this on its side so that these two tires dry, and then I'll flip it over and do the other two tires in like 5 or 6 minutes from now. Pretty much you have, in under 2 hours, for under $10, a tabletop ready Orkish truck. Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy wargaming.